Hello and welcome to another Doctor's Assistant 1 video, and today I'm reviewing the Doctor Who episode The Sands of Life, written by Nicholas Briggs. Before I fully get into it, I'll be going through the packaging. So you've got these worm-like creatures on the sand, you've got K9 besides Romana there, which I'll be honest, I didn't even notice he was leaving there. And then you've got Romana and the 4th Doctor. And then you've got the TARDIS in the background, you've got David Warner's character, Classic Doctor's New Adventures at top there, Doctor Who, the old sort of 70s Tom Baker logo, Tom Baker and Mary Tam in The Sands of Life by Nicholas Briggs, and then a bunch of other people. Big Finish, full cast audio drama, 4th Doctor Adventure, the audio adventures of Doctor Who even, yeah. On the spine it says Doctor Who, The Sands of Life, has a little picture of Tom Baker there, and then it says 2.2, which basically means it's the second series. The first number is the series, so Series 2, Episode 2, basically. So, on the back you've got the blurb and all the synopsis, the cast list, and how long the story is. Now, the length of the story is something quite interesting to me anyway, but it's 72 minutes, which is odd, because, and then you've got the disc, and then the pamphlet, and the reversible cover and whatnot. It's a bit odd, though, that it's 72, as I say, minutes, because traditionally and predominantly in the 4th Doctor Adventure series, and all the 8th Doctor Adventure series, from what I understand, they're all majority of the time hour-long stories. This one isn't, however. It's 12 minutes longer, being, as I say, 72 minutes instead of just 60 minutes, and that. So it was quite odd. So it had like 3 parts instead of just the traditional 2 parts, so that was a bit confusing. And as I say, it's not, so far from Series 1 to Series 2, Episode 2, this is the only story that has 72 minutes runtime, and also it's the 3rd story now to have been written by Nicholas Briggs. As prior to this one, he wrote for the 4th Doctor Adventure series. In Series 1 he wrote Destination Nova, which was the series opener, and then also the Dalek story, Energy of the Daleks, which I want to say is Episode 4. And that as well. So yeah, so this is the first part to another story, which is Episode 3, War Against the Lan. This is the first sort of story introducing the whole concept of the Lan and who they are and the creatures, and you know, it's quite an interesting story. It's I think part 1 is probably the weakest for me. It's just a bit bland, a bit boring, and a bit dull. Parts 2 and 3 are very much where this story shines. The sound effects and all music make it feel very much of the era. I could easily see this being a 70s story. I think Romana and or Mary Tam is predominantly the main sort of point of focus in the story. I think, if anything, the Doctor sort of, oddly enough, takes a bit of a backseat and is put on the back burner, for lack of a better term, which is odd, because obviously in the classic series it was the opposite way around. It was predominantly the companion who would take the back seat, and then I think in recent years, looking back on the classic series, that's been the biggest criticism of that sort of 1963 to 1989, you know, run of Doctor Who, that predominantly in most, not all, but most of the show and or most of the stories, the companion would be, as I say, on the back burner, not doing much besides asking questions, whereas actually Romana seems to be quite integral to this story. I don't know why quite yet. It'll probably help when I watch the next story. Tom Baker's Tom Baker, really, you know, what more is there to say? He's got quite a lot of comedic lines here. He's quite, comedic and quite funny. He has a little bit of sort of being a bit sort of, you know, authority and a bit like, you know, sort of stern with David Warner's character. Like, they have quite a lot of good dialogue between each other. David Warner is, well, David Warner, and you know, he's phenomenal actor, and that. I can't remember the name of the character he plays, but he plays him very well. He gives this sort of very real, sort of fleshed out, real sort of performance, and all this sort of gritty sort of realism to the character of this corporate suit, you know, guy. You know, he's one of those people, unfortunately, in the context of the story. And again, it feels very classic Doctor Who. It feels like it's big in scope, even though, obviously, if it was televised back in the 70s, it would have probably been a bit... They'd have been stretching themselves, I think. K9 is in this story, however, he's not in it much. I think that's another criticism of this story. As well as part 1 being fairly basic. I think John Leeson as K9 is very good. He is, you know, fantastic as usual. He always is. He knows how to play K9 to a T. It's just, as I say, it's just not massively utilised or used in this story very much. So if you go into this story wanting K9 and or K9 goodness, this is probably not the story for you. As I say, out of the 3 of the main characters, K9, the Doctor and Romana, I'd say Romana is the main point of focus here. Second none to the Lan, if anything, and it's odd saying this out loud, but it feels kind of like a David Attenborough sort of Planet Earth sort of nature documentary with Doctor Who, you know, just interjected into it. You know, it's very much about these sort of aliens, but then they're not really hostile, but they're not just, oh, we're gonna destroy the world with love, you know, with the likes of the Cybermen or the Teller or any other crappy, randomly stupid story in the new series that just randomly use love to destroy an alien, or that the alien was never bad but it just wanted to be loved, or whatever crap. It's more sort of that these creatures use sort of, spoiler alert here, but use sort of space and or time the way we would just use you know, the air and or oxygen to breathe, you know, like it just indirectly hurting people, you know. They're not actually going out of their way to do that, but just what they're doing is actually hurting people. So, because like they have to go to the place with all the sand. I can't even remember the name of the place. How bad is my memory? But they have to go there to give birth and that, and then if they do that, or if they then all end up doing that, then obviously it would be catastrophic for the Earth and all that. But I mean, it's a basic story, which I'm not complaining about. It is nice to listen to something a bit more slower pace and a bit more easier to follow, but I guess in contrast to monthly range releases, it is a bit like there seems to be no balance really. Like monthly range releases are over here uber sort of complex with a lot more substance and a lot more multi-layering and a lot more different concepts, and then you've got your sort of Fourth Doctor Adventure series stuff here where it's just like one or two concepts spread across two parts, or in this case 3. Whereas with, as I say, monthly range releases, they're over here with like other side of the spectrum where they've got like, you know, 3 or 4 different concepts and only 4 parts to sort of breathe, air them out and that. But yeah, and a lot more characters. The side characters are pretty meh as well. Like besides David Warner, there's no real memorable characters here besides the Lan really, and as I say, Romana, and they're pretty connected because, you know, things get discovered or things get revealed and or layers get peeled back by part 2 and 3, and it all makes sense. It all fits together snugly and nicely, and that. And one of the reasons as to why the Lan communicate with Romana and not the Doctor, I was like, well, obviously, duh. Like, I was surprised I didn't even really sort of think about it first, or already before they'd even revealed it. It starts a bit iffy. Like, I'm not a big fan of the start of the story. It ends alright from what I recall. I want to say the ending is them attacking the Lan, and that, so that which will follow in nicely to War Against the Lan, which is the next story. So yeah, I'd give this story a well-earned 7 out of 10. it's a 1 point and/or score above the previous story, but however, it's still not the best story. It could be It could have been a lot stronger, but it could have been a lot worse. Basically, it's yeah, it's a 7 out of 10 from me. Thanks for watching. Comment, rate, and subscribe.